After the end of World War I, the British constructed a large naval base in Singapore to protect the British Far East. In the event of war, the Royal Navy would be dispatched to Singapore to defend the colonies. This was the Singapore strategy. The presence of the naval base boosted British confidence in the Far East. Winston Churchill described Singapore as the Gibraltar of the East. Despite having the best naval base in the region, the Royal Navy's main fleet was never deployed to Singapore. It was needed more urgently in the Atlantic and Mediterranean. However, even if the main fleet could be dispatched to Singapore, Singapore needed to defend itself for weeks to months before the fleet reached the island. The absence of the main fleet severely handicapped Singapore's defenses. The island's invincibility was really an illusion. The loss of Malaya to the Japanese came as a surprise to the British Empire. They had not expected the speed and ferocity of the Japanese troops, who pushed them back to Singapore. By the end of January 1942, an attack on Singapore was imminent. Lieutenant General Arthur Perceval deployed his troops in a perimeter defense in Singapore. This meant that every coastline of Singapore was defended. He believed that the Japanese would invade from the northeast and deployed his freshest troops there. On 7th February, the Japanese carried out an attack on Pulau Ubin. This further convinced Lieutenant General Perceval to anticipate an attack from the northeast. It was a mistake.
But the British told us that they were expecting the invasion from the sea, and they advised everybody to move inland because those who were living around Katong and by the sea, it was dangerous for them. Trusting the British, my family decided to move inland, and we moved to Newton, which is far enough inland. But Newton was the place which was received the most bombing around about that time. So it was not moving into the frying pan or the fire, it was just moving stupidly into the fire.
On the night of 8th February 1942, the main Japanese invasion force silently crossed the Johor Straits and attacked Singapore from the northwest through Sarimbun Beach. However, still expecting the Japanese to invade from the northeast, Perceval hesitated and did not send reinforcements to aid the defenders in the northwest.
闇の対岸に向かってまっしぐらに進んだ我が舟艇は、ついに見事島の西北角に取り付いて上陸成功を知らせる緑の信号弾が上がった。有志らは今シンガポール要塞の一角にがっちりと両足をインした。
The men from the Australian 8th Division valiantly defended the northwestern coast. With them were a small company of Dal Force volunteers, also known as the Overseas Chinese Anti-Japanese Army. After hours of fierce fighting, the defenders were overwhelmed by the numerical superiority of the Japanese forces and took on heavy casualties. They were forced to retreat.